Hello everyone, Kieran Swale from Southern Regional College. I'm a member of the business support team of tourism specialists there, and I am also part of the Enterprise Hub, which is led by Northern Regional College. Now, recently I took part in 4 days of training organised by Rejig, and the training was for any one of the 6 colleges who were representatives of 6 colleges who wanted to participate in the entrepreneurship, what was called Accelerate program, really to look at process of design thinking and how participants could take design thinking forward in their colleges. So I was one of 3 actually from Southern Regional College, and this was a very, very enjoyable program, I have to say, led by Patricia and Michelle from Rejig, and I think they've been doing this kind of training for quite a while now, so that certainly was very, very enjoyable. So what I've done here is I've shared the mural board, which is what we used. Mural, very, very good collaborative tool for learning in groups or for ideation and getting ideas together. I'd never used this before, so it was really a quick learn. In simplicity, if you've ever used Prezi before, it's a little bit like that, but only maybe even more I suppose intuitive, but just takes a wee bit of learning, but very, very useful, I have to say. So one of the quick wins for me was getting to use this board and seeing how that you could collaborate with different members of a group. So Patricia and Michelle delivered a great training, and honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. It was very, very focused, and gosh, we learnt a lot. We were pushed. You were always on the edge of your seat. It's coming in. I'm laughing at this because, you always knew you were going to be stretched. But as Patricia rightly said, and Michelle too, this is how it feels if you're coming into group learning for the first time. And one of the early exercises I remember is, I'm showing you a bottle here, but she says, okay, well, grab something on your table. I had a bottle, and I says, okay, well, do something with it. And what are the other uses for that? And quickly, if you turn that upside down, it becomes a sprinkler. Yes, it's dribbling water now, but what else could you use that for? Well, if you cut that, then it could be, you could spray it as a gun, or etc., etc. And really, from the outset, you were thought to think differently. And this was great because we just get into the routine of every day doing things in a routine way. So from the outset, the training was very, very good. So that's the first thing I'd like to share with you. Secondly, in front of you now you have a board. So I'm going to focus on what Patricia was highlighting to us was, which she took us through the stages of design thinking, and this is by the D School in Stanford. And we kept coming back to this on the 4 different sessions. We always came back to this. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. I guess a lot for me, where I really took a lot, was from stage 1, 2, and 3. And I think, this is only my opinion, I think this is where possibly in FE colleges we could really, really focus on. The 4th and 5th, definitely in business support and with the role that I do. But for getting students to come up with new ideas in a shorter time frame, these first 3 steps are really, really good. And it's only by practice that you're doing this. So I've taken step 3 and I've just Googled some stuff on this and come up with this here, if you can see this here. Ideate, reframe the problem using the story created above. Let your imagination go wild. So when we got to this stage, we were very much, no is not accepted. You always have to be thinking, yeah, but, yes, positivity. So, rules are only to use the words yes or and. You cannot use the words no. To be honest, this was so refreshing to have in the stages of design. And I'm just going to pull across here the design thinking process if you're not familiar with it. There are 5 main stages. Empathize, work to fully understand the experience of the user. Define, process and synthesize the findings to form a user point of view. This was really, really important for us in our group. And as I say, ideate, where you explore a wide variety of possibilities of how you can do things, and then you start to narrow it down when you come to prototype, to transform your ideas to physical product, and then obviously at the 5th stage to try it out. Okay, so this is a mural board, and what I'm now able to share you is the board that our group, which I'm just going to pull down now and focus in here. So our group was myself at the bottom here. I'm using a little tool called Loom, by the way, but just to highlight. Just going to grab that there. So that was our team was just here, so which was Alan, Faye, Joanne and Kieran. And very first thing that we had to do, you know, our task was set here, which was, just to zoom in on that, how might we embed student engagement? So that's what we were asked to do. How in entrepreneurship in the everyday life of further education in Northern Ireland. So that's the task that Irvine and Anne had set us. And initially, the very first activity we did, we were paired up with somebody else, and we got into this idea of active listening. And to be honest, I'd never really done that before, so even that in itself was very useful, to pair up with someone and just actually to listen what they do, and then you had to feed that back to the rest of the group and then get some of those ideas down on what this first stage was, an insights board. But very quickly then, at the end of the first session, we were put into groups, and what you're seeing in front of you probably looks quite complicated, but really it followed a process. And for me, there are aspects of this that I will definitely use. I may not use all of this, but there's definitely going to be aspects that I can see I can put into practice. So the very first thing we did as a group, we got our insights together, and they were grouped using the mural. The next stage was to identify the key problems. Remember, here was the task we were set. How might we embed student entrepreneurship in everyday life? So quickly you had to identify problems in your group, but the mural board allowed you to do that. And this little tool at the bottom was very good, because think of everyone who has impacted the problems. Not only were you able to identify those, but you had to think of the students, the different groups, the students, the teaching staff, support staff, the employers, the employees, the stakeholders, and the awarding bodies. One of the many useful tools that I really found here was this user statements. And I think this is something, when you're trying to practice some of the tools that we use, that I think you could use. So user statements are here. You know, as an employer, I need trainees with a can-do attitude so that they can fit into a team, if you're thinking about workplace learning. As a student, I need power balance in a group work so that my quiet voice can be heard. As a stakeholder, I need to be valued by the colleges so that I invest in your students. So the as a, and then I need, and then so that. So we were taken through that process. So I found that very useful, I have to say. And then the next thing, stage 4, was, I suppose, how might we statements, HMW. You know, how might we gain the student's voice to help us develop this area? How might we grow motivation in staff to do something new in teaching strategies? How might we add value? How might we make sure students get the best experience within their placement, for example? How might we give mock work experiences to give them the skill they so need? How might we match placements and students more effectively? Now, having done through that, then you're then start to, this is, as you can now see, is like a mapping process, and you're through to an ideation board. And there are 3 key areas that are highlighted there. You can see, how might we develop a cross-college enterprise curriculum? How might we get the collaboration between employers and colleges so everyone is aware of what's needed? Then how might we inspire students? So each group had to kind of started to narrow down. And this is where, I suppose, as the workshops continued, you were always brought back to this 5 components of design thinking. You're always been brought back to that, and what Patricia was referring to, convergence and divergence, where you converge all of the ideas in, I suppose, stages 1, 2 and 3, and then when you started to get in through stage 3 towards stage 4, you're starting to diverge and narrow these down. And this, as you work through the mural map, you'll start to see this in terms of the ideation board. This becomes more apparent. And you know, I could talk at length in this, but I suppose what's important is you're bringing the ideas from a concept, and you're trying to think, how would that actually happen? And you can see there very clearly there are 4 different stages. And then the next stage is that you take that through an evaluation, and we were actually taking that through to develop that even further. And then how does this actually work? And one of the tools that I found very useful, if you haven't used this before, there were 2, was what Patricia and Michelle called the point tool, where I'm going to zoom in on that now. You had pluses, what's good, opportunities, what makes it possible, and issues of concern. And there are various variants of that I know out there in the marketplace. And then another tool was the Scamper tool that some people may have heard of before. I hadn't used that before. So, I'm giving you a whistle-stop tour. Here, I suppose, focusing on is towards the end of what we did is how does it work, and tell me more. And, then we got to the very, very end where you had a storyboard, and each team had to storyboard their ideas, and you were given icons to do that. So there's a lot, and I know this is a very, very short video. There was a lot that we learnt. How am I going to bring this into practice then? Well, just to summarize, I like the how might we statements. I like this stage 3 of ideate, and always anything is a, no is not an answer, or possibilities. You're always trying to stretch yourself. And also then narrowing them down to the evaluation stage is very, very relevant. We covered so much in 4 days, and it's really not, I'm not doing this justice in this short video. I'd like to take this forward with perhaps my own team in business support, and to think, how can we be more effective in the services that we offer to businesses in the southern region of Northern Ireland. And I'm going to work with my colleague Tracy Rice, probably realistically after Easter, between April and May, and we're going to do that as a business team. Listen, there's loads of tools here, folks. I just think, there's plenty of practical exercises. The mural board I really, really like. I hope you have, I've ranted a wee bit and covered a lot of ground there, but I hope you haven't found that too much, and happy to share my ideas with anyone else. Thanks very much.